Hey guys, let's get more news about Dallas, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. How non-existent Dak Prescott talks impact Cowboys' CD Lamb negotiations. If quarterback Dak Prescott's next contract is the first domino to fall, it might be a while before the Dallas Cowboys are able to sign prolific wide receiver CD Lamb to a new deal. According to ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, there hasn't been any progress or any substantive talks on an extension that lowers Prescott's $61 million cap number for the 2024 season, which in turn makes it difficult to negotiate with the likes of Lamb, All-Pro linebacker Micah Parsons, and the Cowboys' other star players. But their negotiations so far with Dak have been described to me as passive or even non-existent, Fowler said during a Sunday appearance on ESPN's SportsCenter. There really hasn't been anything going on, so their actions are saying that maybe if they have to sit on his $61 million cap hit this year, then figure it out later, then they'll do that. They've been fiscally responsible, not really spending any money, so they know they have to address this at some point in the offseason. The Cowboys and Prescott previously mutually agreed that the quarterback would play out the final year of his contract this upcoming season, but Lamb remains very much in limbo. Emerging as one of the league's most prolific receivers, Lamb is coming off a stellar 2023 campaign in which he caught 135 passes for a career-high 1,749 yards with 12 receiving touchdowns. According to Fowler, though, Lamb has to get in line behind Prescott before any deal gets done. My sense is they need to figure out the Dak Prescott situation first, Fowler said, of any potential Lamb negotiations. As Prescott and the Cowboys sit in a holding pattern, Lamb is sitting out Dallas' offseason program. Meanwhile, the cost of premier wide receivers continues to rise across the NFL. In the aftermath of the Detroit Lions, briefly, making Amon-Ra St. Brown the highest-paid wide receiver in the league, by AAV, with a 4-year contract worth $120 million, the Philadelphia Eagles upped the ante by inking A.J. Brown to a 3-year contract worth $86 million. According to one prominent agent familiar with the wide receiver market, St. Brown and Brown's contracts will serve as the guideposts for Lamb when any negotiations get underway with the Cowboys. Those two deals will only help CD, the agent told Heavy, on the condition of anonymity to speak freely about a player he doesn't represent. They push the number one wide receiver market above $30 million annually. CD will probably reset the market based on how Dallas does deals. If the Cowboys stay true to form and plan on making Lamb the NFL's highest-paid receiver, it may require lowering Prescott's cap number to make that kind of deal possible. According to Spotrac, only 4 teams have less cap space than the Cowboys' $4.49 million in spending flexibility this offseason. However, with Prescott's deal off the books in 2025, the Cowboys will have approximately $83.1 million in cap space, representing the 9th most in the NFL. Then, in 2026, the Cowboys are projected to have approximately $283.06 million in cap space, the 6th most in the league. Those projections are bound to change once the Cowboys reach some sort of eventual resolution with Prescott, Lamb, and Parsons. But, as things stand, it seems that deciding what to do with Prescott is taking precedent for Jerry Jones and the Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys, did they make a mistake passing on running back Trey Benson in the second round of the 2024 NFL Draft? The Dallas Cowboys had a chance to draft Florida State Seminoles running back Trey Benson in the second round of the 2024 NFL Draft, but they decided to pass up on him with the 56th overall pick. With that selection, Dallas decided to take defensive end Marshawn Kneeland from Western Michigan. The Cowboys did need help on the defensive line, and that was a good choice for them in the second round, but running back was probably a bigger need for Dallas than help on the defensive line. Trey Benson was drafted by the Arizona Cardinals 64th overall in the third round of the 2024 NFL Draft. Arizona got better offensively during the 2024 NFL Draft. the Dallas Cowboys decided to get better in the trenches during the 2024 NFL Draft. Did they make a mistake by not taking Trey Benson in this year's draft? Bettinger believes that the number one mistake that the Cowboys made during this year's draft was that they passed up on Florida State Seminoles running back Trey Benson. The reasoning that he gave for it was, the Dallas Cowboys traded down in the first round, picking up an extra third-round pick from the Detroit Lions in the process. Although there's definitely the matter of positional value and prioritizing those premium positions like edge over running back, it's still an odd decision for the Cowboys to have passed on Florida State star Trey Benson for Western Michigan pass rusher Marshawn Kneeland. If you want to get into scalding hot take territory, the decision to pass on Benson there could be an indicator that this team is eventually planning on life without Dak Prescott. If you're committed to the quarterback, you might be more likely to use that second rounder on a running back that could help right away. The Cowboys had a lot of areas to address in this particular draft, but passing on Benson could end up biting them down the road. Entering the draft, the Cowboys had a really weak running back room. It was very weak that they had to sign Ezekiel Elliott during NFL free agency and bring him back to the franchise. They let Tony Pollard walk in free agency and he signed with the Tennessee Titans. Dallas will not have a clear-cut favorite for the running back position come training camp. Had they drafted Trey Benson, the Dallas Cowboys would have a true number one running back on the roster entering the 2024 NFL regular season, but that is now the Arizona Cardinals' luxury. Cowboys predicted to add violent playmaker to pair with CeeDee Lamb. While there has been ample concern expressed, and with good reason, for the Cowboys' short-term issues at running back and long-term issues at quarterback, we might take a moment to consider, too, that Dallas figures to have a looming problem at wide receiver, too. That's because, even if CeeDee Lamb is locked up to a hefty contract extension this offseason as expected, the Cowboys are still looking at a serious depth issue. Lamb is number one. Brandon Cooks is number 2, but will be 31 and is entering the final year of his contract. Last year's number 3 was Michael Gallup, who was unceremoniously cut after another massively disappointing season. So this year's number 3 is, well, we'll get back to you on that. It might be 2022 third-rounder Jalen Tolbert. It could be little-used third-year man Cavonte Turpin, or sixth-round pick Ryan Flournoy. Problem is, at this time next year, the Cowboys might well have virtually no one on the depth chart behind Lamb. Thus, in NBC Sports' way too early 2025 NFL mock draft, they have the Cowboys looking down I-35 at Austin and plucking burgeoning Texas receiver Isaiah Bond for the job. Bond is not a big receiver, but could thrive opposite Lamb nonetheless. In its summary, NBC wrote of Bond, who has transferred to Austin after starting his career with Alabama. Bond, 5'11", 182 pounds, reeled in 49 of 75 targets, 65%, for 668 yards and 4 touchdowns as a sophomore first-year starter last year. He spent 60% of his reps in the slot, averaging 2.02 yards per route with a 12.8 ADOT and 4.6 YAC. Bond will have the advantage of taking over a WR1/2 role in head coach Steve Sarkisian's potent offense this year and has first-round upside if he can put it all together. Bond was one of the top players that the Tide lost this offseason in the wake of the retirement of coach Nick Saban. He decided to go to Texas in what he called a business decision. Just like the business world, you make the best decision for your company, Bond told ESPN. My company right now is my draft stock. I feel like I'm putting myself in position to increase that and have better draft stock. Bond was the Crimson Tide's leader with 48 receptions during his sophomore season and was the Tide's second leading receiver overall with 668 yards and 4 touchdowns. While size figures to be an issue for Bond, he is gifted with good hands and is, essentially, the same size as Cooks, 5'10", 189 pounds. In its scouting report on Bond, the draft site NFL Draft Buzz wrote, "He's coordinated with soft, reliable hands, and Bond shows the ability to adjust to balls thrown behind him, as well as a knack for digging out low throws. Bond also proved to be a force in catch-and-run situations. A violent runner who transitions upfield quickly after the catch, he has the speed to pick up chunks of yardage once he's broken the first tackle. There is no doubt that the Cowboys are in the midst of a remake at several key spots, and it began this season with the retooling of the offensive line and the running back room. Dak Prescott's contract and future is next on the list. But no matter what happens with Lamb and his contract, adding depth at the wide receiver spot is a must for the Cowboys, too. And you, fan? What do you think of the situation of Isaiah Bond? Leave your opinion in the comments.